Let me just show you. Let me just tell you what happens. Now, he tweeted this out. Daniel Fusi said, overheard from a Bills defender, this is check down city. No. Let me just tell you something. You didn't hear that. We pretending that if Shedeur Sanders made them same plays, them same turnovers, that we would be cool with him. And people is capping. Actually, it's a bold-faced lie. Keep it real with you. Listen, think about this. If you just simply flip the numbers and just said, flip them and say, give Shedeur Deshaun's numbers and then give Deshaun Shedeur's numbers.
Everybody wants to talk about who won the quarterback battle in Buffalo. Nobody wants to talk about the double standards sitting right in front of your face. So today, we're breaking down what actually happened when the Browns and the Bills lined up, what the numbers really say, and why the people closest to this team are starting to see the truth, whether they want to admit it or not. Before anything else, you need to understand why this practice mattered so much. This wasn't just another walkthrough. This was Deshaun Watson against a real opponent for the first time all camp, against a Buffalo team with something to prove. And the reaction from inside the building tells you everything.
You know how I give it up. I'm going to keep it 1,000% with y'all at all times. I keep it a buck. What I wanted to do is I wanted to go to practice. I wanted to check the temperature real quick because what I needed to do, a lot of people was moving around after that game against the Chicago Bears. And I've been doing some digging for the last week. And I'm like, man, it's getting kind of, I don't know how I feel about this.
Here's the part that got buried. Before the pads even came on, word was already going around the building about how this competition was supposedly leaning. Not from one person, from multiple sources. And that number is the reason so many people walked in already looking for reasons to confirm it.
I ain't gonna say nothing much, but let me just keep it a buck with you. It's looking like this an 85, 90% deal done. They want to roll with Watson, 85, 90%. I said, okay, cool. So now I go around and move around. I'm going to talk to other people.
So let's start with what Watson actually did, because credit where it's due matters here. He opened practice with a clean throw, good protection up front, the kind of rep that makes you sit up and pay attention. If he plays like that for 4 quarters, this is a different conversation entirely. But football isn't judged on one throw in a vacuum. It's judged over the course of a practice, over the course of a game plan, over the course of what happens when the defense actually starts trying to take something away from you. And that's exactly where things started to shift, because once the Bills' defense decided they weren't going to let Cleveland set the tone early, the whole offensive approach changed in front of everybody watching.
Deshaun Watson had a nice throw to start the thing off, right? Nice throw to Casey Concepcion. Right here, let me show you. Let me show you. This is early. That's a nice ball. That's a nice ball. By the way, Casey Concepcion was unguardable all day. He kept running. He caught so many. He was catching the football, and he would come back and be like, "These dudes suck." Casey Concepcion was cooking. Let me show you again. I don't want nobody accusing me of nothing. This a nice throw. Good protection.
What happened next is the part nobody wants to put in the headline. Buffalo's defense started clowning the entire operation. Not quietly either. Guys in street clothes were getting involved. Guys on the sideline were pointing it out. And the phrase being used to describe Cleveland's approach was not flattering. When the opposing team is loud enough about what they're seeing that it becomes a whole storyline of its own, that tells you the offense wasn't exactly humming the way people want you to believe. This is Buffalo, a Super Bowl caliber roster, calling out exactly what they saw unfolding in front of them.
Let me just show you. Let me just tell you what happens. Now, he tweeted this out. Daniel Fusi said, overheard from a Bills defender, this is check down city. No. Let me just tell you something. You didn't hear that just from one defender. You heard that from people in street clothes. You had a dude on the sideline that looked like he wasn't playing. And these dudes was demonstratively being like, this little check down Charlie stuff y'all got running, This is nasty work. The Bills was actually salty about it. They was actually salty about it. They like, bro, this is what y'all running? I thought we was coming in to get this work. I thought we was coming to get that work. Y'all brought us way from Buffalo. We got in charter buses to come over here with this check down Charlie stuff.
Now let's get into the actual numbers, because numbers don't lie even when narratives try to. Watson went one way through the air with a touchdown and an interception mixed in. Shedeur went a different way. More attempts, 0 touchdowns, but also 0 interceptions. Clean football. And here's the context that gets left out constantly. Shedeur wasn't exactly working with wide open grass to operate in. A lot of his reps were bootlegs, handoffs, and draws, structured plays with almost no room to actually push the ball down the field. You can't evaluate a guy on ceiling when the play call never gives him the chance to show it.
Like we talking about the situation, Browns versus Bills joint practice is a wrap. Here's up with the Browns perform team drills, 11 of 7-on-7. Deshaun and Watson split first team reps. Watson was 12 of 17, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Sanders was 13 of 23, no touchdowns and no interceptions. Taylor Green actually played pretty well. I thought he did a really good job in those little sessions that he got.
Then there's the deep ball question. When Watson pushed the ball down the field late in practice, the question being asked in real time wasn't about the arm talent, it was about where the football was actually supposed to go. Multiple defenders bracketed in coverage, a corner working the entire route on an island, and the throw still looking for a home that never showed up. That's not a takedown of the guy's talent. It's a question about decision-making under pressure, the exact thing a real quarterback competition is supposed to expose.
I don't know. As a matter of fact, you might see G. Bush. I was back in the back end zone, and I was asking myself, where is the intended receiver on this play? Because if you look back here, this is the problem I be having. If it wasn't him, watch this dude in the corner. This dude in the corner was cooking. If it ain't him, he has 2 dudes over there. Think about it. There is a corner here and another dude bracketed. It's 5 dudes in a. I don't understand. I'm trying to figure out where exactly was he throwing this rock. Where's the rock, bro? I'm looking for it.
And then you get to the goal line sequence, which honestly says more than any stat sheet could. Watson rolls out on a bootleg with a tight end standing wide open in the end zone, nobody within 10 yards of him either direction, and overshoots him by 3 yards. The very next play, instead of going right back to the air to make up for it, Cleveland calls a reverse that gets stuffed for a loss. Third down comes and goes the exact same way it always does when you're protecting somebody instead of trusting them. That's not a competition being run at full speed. That's a coaching staff managing a situation.
So we're on the goal line, right? Goal line, Deshaun Watson is in. He runs a bootleg. Harold Fanning Jr. is by himself. There's nobody within 10 yards either way in the corner end zone. He overshoots him by 3 yards. Next play. All right, maybe they're going to give him an opportunity to get it back. Let's run another play. These dudes came with that jet reverse again on the goal line. And the Bills was like, stop it. Cats is like, what are you doing? Y'all think y'all could just run this every play on us? We the Bills. We Bills Mafia. Get your hands off me. Get your hands off me. I'm in the backfield. 3-yard loss. They run it back. They like, okay, now it's third down. Well, guess what third down was? We just saw what third down was. This was third down.
Of course, the jokes started flying after that sequence, and that's fine. That's football. That's Twitter. But strip the jokes away and ask yourself the real question. If the exact same missed layup happened with the other quarterback under center, would the conversation sound anything like it sounds right now? That's the entire point being made here, and it's worth sitting with instead of laughing past it.
You talk about one mistake. Deshaun cooked Shedeur today. Shedeur couldn't even release the ball on some plays. I didn't know you was there. See, this is what I be talking about. See, this is why you just be, listen, this is why I be sitting there talking to y'all and having a conversation. Because I don't do takes. See, a take is your opinion. I'm going to tell you what it was. Ain't no such thing. I have a take. There ain't no take.
While everybody's arguing about quarterbacks, the bigger issue on this roster got exposed in the same practice, and almost nobody's talking about it. Buffalo moved the ball whenever they wanted on defense. A coverage bust turned into an easy touchdown look. A key piece of the defensive line went down and had to be carted off. Depth at multiple spots on that side of the ball is already thin before the regular season even starts. If this team is leaning on defense and special teams to keep games close while managing the quarterback position, that plan already has a hole in it, and it showed up in real time against a real opponent. And this is the part that should reframe the entire quarterback debate for anybody watching closely. The least of Cleveland's concerns right now should be who's under center, because the issues showing up in the trenches and in the secondary are the kind that decide games regardless of who's throwing the football. You can talk yourself into believing the quarterback conversation is the whole season, but a defense that can't find a second tight end to cover or a healthy rotation up front is going to be the thing that actually determines how close these games stay.
Josh Allen was doing what he wanted anytime he wanted on the other field. That's to be expected. But what I did not expect is Dalton Kincaid, Kincaid to be running down the middle of the field. It had to be a busted coverage. One play touchdown. Multiple touchdowns on the other field. And Alex Wright got hurt today. We talked about how you could not afford it, and I kept telling people about injuries. There's a play. Hopefully he's okay. Yeah. Well, so he got carted off on an air cast. And this is why I talk about it all the time. These are the things why people, this is why I get upset sometimes when I'm talking to people and they talking about all this other stuff and it's a bunch of people that don't even understand, bro. This is why I get mad when you're talking quarterback. Like, to me, the least of your concerns is the quarterbacks. That's the least of your concerns. You know what Deshaun Watson is. If they choose to start him, he'll get his games, but Shedeur Sanders will be ready to play. Because there's flaws in his game that are evident. Those flaws have been evident for a long time. And I wanted to see if those flaws are still there. Yes. Second of all, people talk about, well, how big is the quarterback? It's the quarterback. No. Stop telling me about your takes about the quarterback when you got issues other places in the trenches. You just lost. That's your starting defensive end. Now you got Isaiah McGuire. I mean, who's behind him? I didn't see Malik Collins is out. Mike Hall hasn't played in days. Mason Graham's in and out of the lineup. Carson Schwarzenegger hasn't played. They can't find another tight end. They don't have a second tight end after Harold Fannin Jr. Most of the stuff that we continue to talk about on again and off again, and we've said it, is you can talk yourself into saying the quarterbacks is this and the quarterbacks is that, and you can fast forward the season. But the things we talking about is, hey, you are 1 or 2. You watch the barbershop. You watch Top 5. We did a segment about who you can't afford to miss. Right? We talked about people supposed to be in bubble wrap, right? Well, we didn't guess that Alex Wright was going to be out. We didn't guess that. But here's the problem. They was the Bills was moving up and down the field like they wanted to. I mean, James Cook was doing what he wanted to. On that other field over there, we had nothing for them. We ain't nothing for them. And this brings me to my great thesis. If the goal that people thought was going to happen.
Now here's where the tape actually works in Shedeur's favor, and it's the part that gets ignored the most. During the 2-minute period, with pressure bearing down and multiple defenders converging in the middle of the field, he stood in, picked up the protection, and delivered a ball over the top of a linebacker into a tight window. That's not check down football. That's a quarterback trusting what he sees and pulling the trigger anyway. If people are going to point to one missed layup on the goal line as proof of something, they have to give equal weight to reps like this one, or the whole exercise stops being honest.
Throws like this. This during the 2-minute drill. Right? You see him bringing the blitz, picked up the protection, in between 2-3 dudes. Bro, this what we're saying. I also had a conversation with a legend today as we broke it down. Now this is in a 2-minute drill. I tell you, y'all might as well stop. Y'all might want to stop blitzing Shedeur. I'm gonna keep it real. Like, he big game hunts. Like you might want to stop blitzing him because they keep the Chicago Bears just ran if you want to watch that, the Chicago Bears came out and ran the double safety blitz in preseason. Okay. You see what they brought the blitz, right? You see what it is. Protection picked up. Good protection. Run the dude by. Step up in the pocket. He ain't retreating. Step into that throw. Look. See, this is what I be talking about. This pass is over top of a linebacker in between the middle of the zones with two dudes converging on you. And this is Malachi Corley. This not Bond. Listen, this is Corley. Placement left roll. They low-key should have had that a touchdown, but they had him down right there. But this the thing I'm saying. It's not, like, people is acting like, oh my goodness, he's blowing. No, he's not. He's not. Let me just keep it real. He's not. He's not blowing. No, Deshaun Watson's not blowing him out the game.
This brings us to the double standard, and it's the whole reason this conversation refuses to go away. All three quarterbacks who took snaps that day put the ball on the ground at some point. All three. Not one guy, not two, all three. And yet only one name keeps getting attached to turnovers in the public conversation. Flip the stat lines, give one quarterback the other's numbers, and watch how fast the narrative flips with it. That's not an opinion. That's just what happens when you actually look at the tape instead of the headline someone wrote about the tape. Think about how this actually works in real time. A veteran walks into a quarterback room and he already knows the language. He knows the check down call, the coverage read, the exact terminology a coaching staff wants to hear on the whiteboard. He can stand up in a meeting and sound like a 10-year starter because in a lot of ways he is one. That's real. Nobody's denying that experience matters, but experience talking the game and experience winning the game under live bullets are two different things, and camp has a habit of blurring the line between them until the ball actually gets snapped for real. That's exactly why a false start gets treated like a bigger deal than an actual interception in some of these conversations. Lining a guy up wrong is a procedural mistake. Throwing the ball to the wrong colored jersey is a football mistake. One of those costs you a possession and potentially a game. The other one is fixable with reps and time. When the conversation keeps elevating the smaller issue over the bigger one, that's not an accident. That's a pattern, and patterns tell you where people's expectations already sit before a single throw gets evaluated on its own merit. And here's the part that should bother anybody actually trying to be fair about this. Nobody's asking for Shedeur to get a pass on his mistakes. He threw an interception last game and it got talked about, as it should have been. That's not the issue. The issue is whether the same scrutiny gets applied evenly in both directions, and right now it clearly isn't. If a young quarterback has to play mistake-free and just to stay in the conversation, while a veteran gets the benefit of context and grace on every single miss, that's not a competition. That's a formality with a predetermined outcome being dressed up as a fair fight. And that's ultimately what makes this whole situation so frustrating for anybody watching with an honest eye. Nobody's asking for favoritism in either direction. All anybody's asking for is the same yardstick applied to both quarterbacks in the room. A turnover is a turnover no matter whose jersey number is attached to it. A missed layup on the goal line is a missed layup no matter how many Pro Bowls are on the resume. Until that standard gets applied evenly, every stat sheet, every practice report, and every headline coming out of this camp deserves a second look before anybody takes it at face value.
We pretending that if Shedeur Sanders made them same plays, them same turnovers, that we would be cool with him. And people is capping. Actually, it's a bold-faced lie. Keep it real with you. Listen, think about this. If you just simply flip the numbers and just flip them and say, give Shedeur Deshaun's numbers and then give Deshaun Shedeur's numbers, vice versa. If you just flipped them, we would take a look at it and say, Shedeur's a turnover machine. And we can't, he has to play clean football. He can't turn the football over. He has to protect the football. But we don't keep that same energy. Let's just be clear with you. I'm going to be honest with you. There was all three quarterbacks had a strip fumble, right? All three quarterbacks had a turnover. Dylan, Shedeur, and Deshaun. You gonna hear about Shedeur's turnover. You gonna hear it. And I didn't excuse none of them. All three of them had a turnover. But the part that we doing right now is we acting as if Shedeur was not turning the football over like that, we would have, no, absolutely not. People would be up in arms. They would already disqualify him. So for me, that's the only part of that you can say, hey, listen, I like Deshaun. I like what he can do. I think he's a little bit ahead of Shedeur in terms of understanding what Coach Monken wants to do. Fine, you can say that. No problem. I've given credit where credit is due plenty of times. I'll still can give credit where credit. I thought he had a nice couple of drives and figured it out. But here's the point.
So where does that leave things heading into the weekend? Whatever the depth chart says on paper, the opportunity is still coming. And how a guy responds to that opportunity says more than any camp report ever could. Nobody in his corner has made a scene about any of this. No leaks, no drama, no calls being made to stir things up. Just quiet preparation, waiting for a real shot in a real game against a real opponent, where scripted goal line plays and protective play calling don't get to decide the outcome anymore. That professionalism matters more than people give it credit for. It would be easy, especially with the noise following this situation everywhere it goes, to let frustration leak out somewhere. A comment here, a cryptic post there, something for people to grab onto and turn into a bigger story than it actually is. None of that has happened. That silence isn't nothing. That's a young player understanding exactly what his job is right now, which is to keep working and let the tape speak for itself when the opportunity actually shows up. And that's the part worth remembering here. This was never framed as some guy sulking about a depth chart or trying to force his way into a starting job through the media. That's not what's happening, and it's not what this is about. What matters is what happens the moment his number gets called, whether that's this weekend or 3 weeks from now. Every rep, every series, every opportunity he gets between now and the regular season is a chance to make the decision harder for the people making it. That's the entire approach, not complaining about the plan, making the plan uncomfortable to stick to. Because at the end of the day, competitions like this rarely get settled by who talks the loudest in a quarterback room or who sounds the smoothest calling out coverages on a whiteboard. They get settled by what shows up on Saturday, in front of a crowd with a real pass rush coming and real coverage disguised until the last second. That's the only environment that actually tells the truth, and it's coming up fast.
Well, this means this. Shedeur Sanders is going to get an opportunity to play. And from what I've seen, and I'm glad I went to camp, I saw Bucky today. Shout out to Bucky today. The thing that I see is he has worked his butt off, and he has gotten better at all of the things that they asked him to do. He has gotten better at pocket presence. He has gotten better at understanding concepts. He has gotten better at getting to the line of scrimmage and calling his plays. And he has gotten better at a lot of different things that a lot of people don't have the opportunity to see. Well, guess what, Shedeur? This your opportunity coming up on Saturday. You can't control what coach going to say. You can't control when coach play you, but you can control the energy, effort, intensity that you play with, and that energy, you go out there and you cook. You go out there and you make sure that everybody understand that you can keep two off the field for a little bit. You can keep two off the field for a hot second. You might be delaying two, but under no circumstances is two about to go out quietly.
Why this weekend matters so much more than one practice ever could. A joint practice can be scripted. A coaching staff can dial up exactly how much room somebody gets to operate in. A real preseason game against a real opponent, with the whistle blowing for real and the defense playing for real, doesn't offer that same protection. That's the setting where all of this either gets confirmed or gets buried for good. And if the improvement people have been tracking all camp is actually real, there's no hiding it once the lights come on for real. Because here's what people keep missing when they try to sum this whole camp up in a headline. It was never one clean day of ones against ones, with everybody letting it fly. It was never a fair, uncontested look at who's actually better right now. Between the joint practice restrictions, the script protection near the goal line, and entire practice sessions where the one-on-one periods that actually settle these arguments got pulled off the schedule completely, this competition has been managed every step of the way. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's just what the last several weeks have actually looked like up close. So when the pads come off and the real games start, all of that management goes away. No more sitting on plays near the goal line. No more limiting reps to protect a specific quarterback's confidence. No more scripted run calls to avoid live throws downfield. Just 11 on 11, real coverage, real pressure, and whoever handles it walks away with the argument settled in their favor, at least for one more week. That's the standard this whole conversation should have been held to from the beginning, and it's finally about to get applied. And that's why the tape from Buffalo matters so much heading into it. Not because it proves anything definitively on its own, but because it's the clearest look anyone's gotten so far at what happens when the training wheels come off even a little bit. A clean stat line under difficult circumstances. A throw into a crowded window that most quarterbacks wouldn't attempt. A double standard hiding in plain sight the moment you actually compare the numbers side by side instead of the headlines built around them. All of that is sitting right there on the film for anyone willing to look instead of assume.
If you can't say, if you're sitting here saying you don't see no improvement or big playability from Shedeur Sanders, I don't know what you're looking at.
So here's where we're at. One quarterback got the benefit of scripted plays and a defense that got shut down on purpose. The other quarterback got handoffs, bootlegs, and almost no room to work, and still walked away with 0 turnovers and at least one throw that should silence anybody paying attention. The numbers say one thing, the double standard says another, and this weekend is going to force everybody to pick a side based on what actually happens under real pressure, not what got protected in a joint practice. Let's run it back one more time so it's crystal clear. A veteran with a fully guaranteed contract came in and looked comfortable early, and credit was given where it was earned for that. But comfortable early against a defense that hadn't started disguising anything yet isn't the same as comfortable when Buffalo actually turned it up. And once they did, the offense reverted right back to the checkdown approach everybody's been talking about since Chicago. Meanwhile, the other quarterback in this competition operated almost exclusively out of structured, low-ceiling play calls, still finished clean, and still delivered at least one throw under real 2-minute pressure that most people in that quarterback room can't make. Then there's the goal line sequence that's going to get replayed all week. A wide-open tight end left uncovered and the football sailing 3 yards over his head, followed immediately by a scripted run call instead of another live opportunity to make up for it. Ask yourself honestly what the reaction would look like if the names were swapped on that exact play. That question right there is the whole conversation in a nutshell, and it's not going away just because certain people would rather not answer it. And underneath all of it sits the defense, which is the part of this roster that should actually be keeping people up at night. Buffalo moved the ball whenever they felt like it. A coverage bust turned into an easy score. A starting defensive lineman went down in a non-contact drill. Depth at multiple spots is already thin before a single regular season snap has been played. If the actual plan here is to lean on defense and manage the quarterback position around it, Saturday already put a crack in that plan, and no quarterback controversy changes that reality. So, this weekend isn't just about who wins a depth chart argument. It's about which version of this team actually shows up when the scripting stops and the real football starts. Everything protected in these joint practices gets exposed the moment the lights come on for real, and there's no coaching staff alive that can manage that away. So, Here's the question for the comments. Do you think Shedeur Sanders is already the better quarterback right now, or do you think Deshaun Watson still deserves the benefit of the doubt heading into the season? Drop your answer below. Smash like and subscribe.